What's up, everybody? It's Scott here from Stringjoy. We're here at Carter Vintage, one of my favorite shops in Nashville, and we're here with one of my favorite players, Ariel Posen. We're going to talk about some crazy string stuff that he's been doing for a long time. Right here in my hands, I have a pack of 17 to 64s that we have on this mule. I get emails all the time from people asking me specifically why you're playing bridge cables and what that's all like, so I wanted to talk a little bit about it for everybody here today. So first of all, what like gauge of strings were you playing initially, way back in the day when you started?
I mean, way back in the day, before when I didn't really know anything about anything, I would be playing 10s like everybody else, and eventually moved to 11s because I just realized, wait a minute, I can just find a gauge that feels better to play all the time and sounds better to my ears.
What was it about the 11s you liked back in the day?
It just gave me a bit more of a fight. And I like a fight when I'm playing. I don't like a guitar to be easy to play. That's just how I am. And I would mess around with, tuning, different tunings and down tuning, like for recordings or sessions. And I could never, I don't know why, it just never dawned on me, because I would tune down with 10s or 11s to like drop D flat or drop C or something like that. And it's like, it's like buzzing out. It would never work. And then when I realized, wait a minute, I can just match the tension with way heavier strings, and that in those tunings, it doesn't actually, it sounds like it's craziness, but it really isn't at all.
And it'll actually intonate.
And it'll intonate. Yeah, and like you gotta, it requires a serious setup on the instrument, but it makes sense. And then you start to forget about it after a while. Like I don't even really think about it. And a lot of guitars, I still use 11s, 11 to 54 usually, but for my thing and what I do, this is becoming home for me. In this B standard thing. So yeah.
When did you make the jump from 11s, which are like a little bit heavy, but like well within the normal range, up to something like 17s, or I know you play some 19s?
Yeah, in the last 5 years, I started messing around with it for sure. And it's taken some time. But again, if you get your guitar properly set up for it, 19s or 17s, 16s, like they can feel like 12s. Yeah. And that's how they are.
If you're tuning to the right place, that's like the actual equivalent gauge to something like 11s or 12s.
Exactly.
A lot of times.
And then when you get used to it, it's like, it does sound fuller, it does sound huge. It's hard to go back. Yeah. It's so satisfying that when you go to like, maybe standard tuning or something like open E in 11s or something, it is hard going back to that. Yeah. When your ears and your hands and everything, like your whole body is rocked by it, because it's a feel thing and it's a sound thing. Being lower tuned like that with the heavier strings, that's just where I'm at now. I'm enjoying it. It's fun.
What I notice a lot is like you can go with 9s or like 8s or something, and if you're playing through a wall of Marshall stacks, it can sound pretty gnarly and thick and everything. But the actual sound of the instrument itself, you hear that thin kind of twangy sound. Whereas with something heavy, when you're just playing the instrument acoustically, it's powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're going to have a great sounding guitar, just electric guitar specifically, acoustic, chances are it's going to like bloom pretty well electrically.
And I wanted to ask, because we have a lot of players that play wound thirds. I'm a guy myself, though I play like a wound 18, so it's quite a different thing. I know you've in the past played plain thirds and wound thirds, at least from us, and I'm kind of curious what you think the advantages are of each, or why you like a wound third in this set particularly.
I have a really basic answer. I don't know why, but I remember getting a set like this with a plain third, and it just sounded wrong. Yeah. It just sounded like fizzy and buzzy, and like the setup was good, but you could probably explain better. I don't know why. It just sounded extremely wrong. Yeah. It needed to be a wound.
And I think I know what you're talking about. I think it was a 24 plain. And part of the thing is like when you get up to being that heavy, you have so much tension from a plain string, even though it's like a slightly thinner gauge. Like a 24 plain will have a lot more tension than a 26 wound. Just because of the way the construction is on it. And so it just kind of, it feels wrong. And it also like, they can just be so dang loud relative to the other strings in the set. Like even on the set of 10s and 11s, it can be that way, I think. Whereas like, you have a lot less mass with the same gauge on a wound string.
Because I almost never play a wound third string in standard tuning otherwise. Like if I'm playing 11s or 12s, I'll never play a wound. I like doing flats on some guitars. That's fun, but that's a different thing. Yeah. So it was just funny because at first I'd be like, well, yeah, just a plain third, I guess, like normal. And yeah, immediately I couldn't explain it. It sounded weird. Didn't sound right.
And especially with slide too, you know. I think that. In fact, I'm not a huge slide player myself, though. I watch you play, and I'm like, man, I need to learn how to play slide. But could you explain for people out there that don't necessarily play slide, kind of what that's like with like thinner strings or heavier strings, or what you think the advantages are in that?
Well, I mean, it's physics. You're taking an object. This is brass, but you can use whatever you want. And you're pressing down. It's not just your finger. It's like there's a lot more weight to it. And you're pressing against these strings. You need to make sure that it's going to hold its weight against it. Yep. So, I mean, if you're playing a guitar with light strings, with action that's kissing the fretboard, it just doesn't work. And slide is a kind of technique where you really need to make the guitar work for you and be set up for you, or else it's just not going to work. And you have to have a slide that fits your finger properly. I feel like I talk about this like a million times, but that's what it all comes down to. You have to, it's not just like grabbing something off the wall and just doing your thing. Like, there's a particular set of things that need to be in place for it to work properly. And it's amazing how much easier it makes it to play when you do these things. Yep. And people don't realize that. I didn't realize that forever,
I'm one of the thing with slide in particular. If you have heavier strings, you can actually get your action a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Because then you have a little bit more fight coming from the strings, and it's not going to knock against the frets every time.
Exactly.
You slide. And
I don't know what my height. Actually, I had this guitar. My tech was just recently working on it, and for the first time ever, I said, "Can you tell me what the measurements are for the action?" And he texted it to me because I never know. It's always just a feel thing. I get it back and I go, maybe just a touch lower, and he goes lower. Actually, let's split the difference, just, and like, oh, that's it. Yep. And I never know. Just high enough to play slide comfortably, low enough to play without slide comfortably. It's this middle ground, and all my guitars are set up like that. So no guitar is only a slide guitar. No guitar is just a non-slide guitar. All of my guitars do both. Yep. That's how I have them set up.
And it can be that way too with like action measurements and such. Like, sometimes you have like this dead end number that you're like, this is my action. But then on one guitar you do that and it measures right, but it just doesn't really work right.
Yeah.
It feels kind of more important there.
Totally.
I think. So I'm really curious, especially for people out there that know that you're playing 17s and such. Are you ever bending? What's bending a string like?
Yeah.
Is that heavy? I know that you bend, but
yeah. Well,
I want folks to see it.
So this tuning is B standard, and for those of you that are confused by that, it's like having a 7-string guitar without the high E string. Yep. Or for those, it might be easier just to say I'm tuned down a 4th.
Yep.
So I'm B, E, A, D, F sharp, B. So like right here on the 5th fret, that would be standard tuning right there. Yep. Like that's E. So, we're tuned down quite a bit. So with 17 to 64, if you think about it, and this took us a couple tries. I remember we started with 15s, and that was just not enough. But if you're playing 11s or 12s in standard tuning, let's say you want to move to D standard, which some people might want to do. I would think more, 13, 14. Yeah. And then if you wanted to do C standard or open C, maybe you do 15 or 16. And then B is one semitone down from C, so 17. You're just matching tension, so it feels like it's 11s or 12s to me. Yeah. So when you say bending, I actually overbended there.
Yeah, you did.
I call that the overachiever.
Just too strong, man.
No. I mean, there's a fight to it, and it feels like they're heavier string, but it's not, they don't feel like huge ass wires that are holding you back. Yeah. It just feels normal. And it takes some time. You just get used to it. Now, if you were playing 13s or 14s in standard tuning, like, you would feel that. Yeah. That's a whole other thing. This takes a little bit of that, and it doesn't. It takes a little bit of, if you were playing 10s or 11s, and feels more natural. To me, at least. I was doing a clinic in Portland just 2 days ago, and I often get asked about this, so I said, you know what? How about a volunteer here? Why don't you come up and see if you can bend it or play? And this guy came up and did his thing, and it was like, how did that feel? And he was just like, surprisingly bendable and playable. Yeah. I was like, exactly. So it's not as crazy as it sounds.
No, I think you're definitely right. I mean, if you look at something like a bass at a 34-inch, you're usually looking at like 40 pounds of tension on like a regular 45
Yeah.
100 set.
And
But
yeah.
you can get some bends in on
But
it.
this is an important thing. So like a baritone, right, is typically maybe 29 scale length or whatever. So this is 25 and a half, regular Strat scale length. And this is the biggest thing for me is that it still sounds like guitar.
Yeah.
You know, it does not sound like a bass. It does, and when you're stretching it out that much far, the tension is so much tighter.
Yeah.
And it's still loose and slinky like a guitar should be.
So I want to talk a little bit about this guitar. Matt at Mule's a good friend, and they do absolutely awesome work. Whose idea was this, and what's unique about it? Just sitting right in front of it.
Okay, so the background with this guitar, firstly, Matt has been doing mule casters for a while, but he's been doing a telly.
Posen casters now too for this one too.
Well, he was doing telly style bodies, right? Steel body, very cool. And I'm not really, I love tellies, but I'm not a telly guy.
Yeah.
Really, like it's not my first. I'm a Strat guy. I'm a three.
Too loud in Nashville.
Yeah, I know. I think we're in a safe space here. There's only like, 3 tellies in here, maybe.
Right.
So for my record, which is available now, I'm just kidding. It is actually. I'm not kidding.
No, and what's the title of it? So I can look it up too.
How Long is called.
Sweet.
Is what it's called.
I need the 12-inch vinyl, so like David Letterman, I can like hold it.
Yeah. Exactly. There was a song on it though that I played in this tuning. I played in B standard. It was a Tiesco Del Rey, $50 guitar, short scale. I don't know even why I did it. I wanted to play it in A position, like in open A basically. First position, like an A chord. Never mind. Regardless, I chose that guitar. I wanted to play it. It had a lot of vibe in it, and it was a lot of fun. And once I started playing that song live, I took that guitar out with me a few times, and it's a single gold foil pickup, super microphonic, unplayable.
Yeah.
Unplayable.
Especially live.
Yeah. And once or twice I'd poke at Matt and be like, "Hey man, when are you gonna build a Strat style one of these? I think it'd be really cool with this tuning." And just eventually, and not long after that, he was just like, "Okay man, let's do it." And yeah, this is actually the second. The very first one is my pink one. It looks white, but it's actually kind of pink. So this is my backup one that I just recently acquired, and I'm getting to know it. But it's basically the exact same thing. And I like low output pickups, so these are 2 mini humbuckers, like Matt's own pickups. So there's a lot more dynamics in it, and it's playable. I can use that tuning now the way I want it to, and still has that character like that Tiesco Del Rey. So that's kind of the origin story.
It turned out great. I mean, it looks like it's almost 2 inches thick on the body.
Yeah, it's like
it's a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a telly body. Like there's no slope at the back.
Yep.
Which I dig.
No comfort at all.
No comfort. Yeah.
It's a big old block. No, that's sweet, and it sounds great. The way that you play it too.
Thanks, man.
And the full 24 frets too. It looks like too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun thing, and it's been really inspiring. I've been writing a lot on the guitar, and I mean, a big part of it, it's not even just the guitar, it's the tuning, and being tuned down a fourth opens things up for me because, the way I sing, in my range, I sing a lot in the key of G or F sharp, C-ish kind of. So to be able to have those kind of chords like this, a G for me is now a D. And stuff like that. So it just opens all these new possibilities that work better in my range than having E as my lowest chord.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I love like C and D as well to sing in, and like it just doesn't really work that well when you're playing in standard and have to play everything way high up.
Exactly. And for open tuning too, it's like in open C, I can capo and be in, like playing in 5th position, I can be open in G, or obviously in C, I can be in D down here rather than how we all know D goes in standard tuning. So a lot of those things are primarily for vocal reasons and singing. So it's great.
That makes plenty of sense.
Yeah.
The one more thing I wanted to ask you about, for anyone out there that doesn't know Ariel already, I think one of the coolest things you do is how you incorporate slide into your playing without it feeling like you're just only playing slide. You'll kind of mix it in these really interesting ways to like inflect certain notes. And I'm kind of curious if you could just show us a little bit of that.
I can, yeah.
A little bit about that.
Yeah, well, my approach, my favorite slide player isn't necessarily a conventional slide player. Like, a lot of people think of slide, and it's slide like it's, and like that's all you do. But I just think of it as an embellishment to what you're already playing. So, you know, if I'm... I don't know, I can't really explain it. It's just like having the pinky, but more.
Yeah.
And it lets you just sound more lyrical or vocal-like. And not to say, like, what the first example I played, that's how I play, that's what I do, but I don't think of, you know, I don't even consider myself just a slide guitarist. Like, it's just a half of what I do, and it's just a way I can express certain melody in a different way, if that makes sense.
No, it does, and I think it's one of the reasons that you're kind of carrying slide into this new generation, where it doesn't feel like, you know, it's this throwback necessarily. Like, there's some things that are really cool classic licks and stuff.
I mean,
but, you know.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking anything at all.
Sure.
This is just my approach and how, just what feels natural to me.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. That's very kind of you to say.
Oh, sure thing. No, it's one of the coolest things. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
So I wanted to talk real quick. The gauge is all the way through for anybody out there that feels like going crazy and getting really, really heavy with their strings. Well, we're at a 17 on the top, then a 20 plain, 30, which is the wound third, then 40, 52, 64. We've changed this around a few times.
Yeah, I think we figured it out though now.
Yeah,
I think we got it.
Cool.
Wound third, got to do it.
If there's changes in the future, I'll try to update the video at the bottom or something. You know, we always find better ways to do little things and all that. But I'm glad we found something that you're enjoying, and I hope some people out there might give really heavy strings a try. And I know they won't sound quite as good as you, but maybe you can get on your way.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
Well, thanks so much for
stopping. No, thank you, man, and thank you. You know, it's been almost 5 years of working together, and appreciate all you do. You're always so helpful, man. I'm short on strings, and it's like I literally close my eyes and open them, and it's like, oh wait, how did you get them here that fast? Like you're a legend. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Likewise.